everybody, this is James of the Silent Echo Lindy, and I'm here to talk to you guys about something that, if you know me, it's no news. If you don't know me, I'm going to try to educate you on something that's really important to me and tons of other people out there. I have sickle cell anemia, and it's a genetic blood disorder which causes your red blood cells that are normally shaped like donuts to be shaped like sickles or crescent moons, or overall just misshapen. And inside of human red blood cells in general is this thing called hemoglobin, and that's where your oxygen lives, kind of where that donut hole is. Now, if your red blood cells are misshapen, that hemoglobin it doesn't have enough room. There's not a whole lot of space to carry that oxygen. When I was teaching, I like to tell kids, like, your red blood cells are like dump trucks, big old garbage trucks that you store oxygen in, and those dump trucks travel through your circulatory system and drop off the oxygen, like a dump truck would dump garbage at a dump, although oxygen is much more useful than garbage. Now, imagine trying to fill a BMW 3 Series convertible full of garbage and take it to the dump. You wouldn't carry much garbage, would you? Now, same thing with sickle cell. Your sickled red blood cells don't carry as much oxygen through your body. And on top of that, try imagining driving down the expressway, and all of a sudden you get towards a major city and it's a traffic jam. And that's what happens with your red blood cells. All those red blood cells that are sickled are trying to get through these tight, narrow little highways, your veins and arteries, your circulatory system, and they get stuck together. And sickle cell, the protein in your red blood cells that is mutated by sickle cell, causes those red blood cells not only to be shaped funny, but they're sticky, so they get stuck together. So it's like tons of accidents on the expressway. And what that does is that causes pain. That causes damage to your body, tissue damage, joint damage, anywhere your blood flows, you can have damage. Like, for instance, when I was around 25, I had my hip replaced because it was just turned into Swiss cheese. Matter of fact, when they took my hip out, I asked the doctors, "Hey dog, can I keep it?" And they were like, "Yeah bro, we'll see what we can do." And when I woke up out the surgery, the first thing I asked is like, "Hey, where's my hip at?" And they were like, "Oh, when we took it out, it just pretty much fell apart." That's how bad it was. So, at that time, 20 some odd years of damage to my hip just totally destroyed it. So now I got this awesome, super sweet titanium, cyborg, artificial hip. So, what can you do about sickle cell? There's not a whole lot of readily available treatments. Now, yes, there are some groundbreaking new treatments out there using gene therapy like CRISPR. There's some therapies out there that use bone marrow transplants to take your bone marrow, which makes your red blood cells. You basically zap that all the way with chemotherapy and radiation and all that. And if you have a relative or a match, it could be an unrelated donor, although that's very difficult because there's not a lot of African American donors of bone marrow, and it's easier to make a genetic match with someone who has similar genetic makeup. So that being said, it usually comes from a sibling or something like that, and they replace your bone marrow with their bone marrow. Hopefully your body is cool with it and likes it, and your sickle cell is pretty much gone. Same thing with the CRISPR, where they remove genes and edit genes. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. I've had a lot of experience with doctors. I guess, I might as well, be able to hang with doctors at least. So yeah, those are some of the more promising treatments. On the day-to-day basis, though, If you're not able to get those treatments for some reason, uh, blood transfusions are a common treatment. When your body does not make enough blood, uh, anemia, that's the anemia part in sickle cell anemia, you get lethargic, you get tired, you have more pain. It sucks. It really, really, really sucks. Uh, so, they will give you a couple of units of blood. Now, the next step up is um, apheresis transfusions. Now, apheresis transfusions are pretty great. They're pretty awesome, and they do wonders. And the first time I got one, it saved my life. I had just had a small stroke, and they gave me an apheresis transfusion, and it literally saved my life. And it saved my life at least a couple times. But it's great for preventive maintenance. It basically, what they do is they take two IVs, two needles. If you have veins that are good enough, they'll put them in your arms. If you don't, they'll put them in your port, which I will explain. Here's a little. It's underneath this bandage, but it's basically like this little thing underneath your skin. They stick two needles in there, and one tube goes. Both tubes go into the machine, and the big machine looks like a dialysis machine, but it's fairly different. And what it does is it sucks. One side sucks blood out, and the other side puts blood in. And we're talking about a lot of blood. We're talking about maybe 10 bags of blood, for me at least, depending on how much you weigh, depending on certain parameters. Now, I get those once a month, and it's a lifesaver. You know, not everyone is that home run, but most of the time I do see a marked improvement in how I feel. Like, it also helps prevent things like stroke and sickle cell crisis, because you are having fresh blood in your body. Now, red blood cells die, so after about, week 3, 2.5, 3 weeks into that period where you've got that fresh blood, those blood cells start to deteriorate and die, and your body wants to make new ones. And that's when your body will start making some crappy red blood cells again. Now, apheresis is available at a lot of hospitals. I feel like, unfortunately, there's not a lot of people unfortunately, there's people who still don't know about it. There's a lot of sickle cell patients that could greatly benefit from it that just don't know about it. It's a game changer. I went before I got apheresis. I was in the hospital maybe. I was going to the ER maybe once a week, maybe more than that. But apheresis alone isn't a miracle cure. You still have pain, and the pain can be really severe. It can be something as mild as achiness to like literally feeling like someone is stabbing you with a hot knife in whatever part of your body. And it's horrible pain. It is. I would not wish it on anybody. It's miserable. If you add on top of the pain the feeling like you're so tired you can't move, it's horrible. My particular pain spots are my hip, my knees, my back. When I was younger, it was my hands. My hands used to swell because you get those red blood cells stuck in that area, and your hands would swell. And it was incredibly painful. Being a kid with sickle cell being a young child with sickle cell is incredibly difficult. I missed more school than I could possibly count. I couldn't tell you how many days of school I missed in my school career. Astronomical. The social pressure of having sickle cell. I got made fun of constantly by my peers. I even got made fun of by teachers who said that I was slacking off, or I was just goofing around and not and faking sick so I didn't have to come to school. Like I was faking sick, going to the hospital, getting needles stuck in my arm, not being able to be home, you know, hanging out with my brother or stuff like that, so I could chill in the hospital with you know, Nurse Susie. Not all that fun. Really not all that fun. Yeah, they make it comfortable for you in the hospital, as comfortable as they can. You know, and depending on the hospital you go to, maybe not that comfortable. You know, for a while I was going to hospitals in Detroit where you got this TV that was this big, really crappy food, and it sucked. It was not a fun time. So, uh, yeah, you deal with a lot of things, different things with sickle cell. Depression is a big one. Feeling like you don't quite measure up to your peers. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to play sports. I wanted to play hockey. I wanted to be a goaltender, if you can imagine that. But my mom was like, "Nope, you're gonna get sick." You know. And one day, my elementary school or middle school had like a little pickup basketball challenge with another school, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm gonna do it." I went. I got on the bus, played for about 10 minutes, and I had a horrible pain crisis. Um, it was awful. So there are physical limitations. I get exerted quickly. Things are better now that I'm older and I've got a few more things going on as far as like treatments and medicines and whatnot. But back then it was real tough, real tough. Now, how do you deal with the pain is another thing. You know, basically dealing with the pain. If you have sickle cell, at some point in your life, you're going to be taking some pretty heavy narcotics. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I was taking Tylenol with codeine, and that knocks a lot of adults out. And that was at home. I was taking that at home, and you know, literal codeine cough syrup, scissor. You know, I was taking that at home when I was like 4 or 5 years old. When I was in the hospital at that age, they were giving people uh, Demerol, which they don't even give anymore. It's a very heavy opioid narcotic. Uh, you know, nowadays, then it progressed to morphine. Then it progressed to Dilaudid. And uh, with that comes a lot of stigma. You know, when you go to the emergency room, you have sometimes doctors and nurses who look at you funny and like, "Oh, that dude's drug seeking. Get him out of here. You know, he's not really sick. He doesn't look sick." You know, over my 30 plus years of life, I've learned to just deal. You know, I've learned to deal with pain. I've learned to suck it up. I've learned to range it up. I've learned to get on my computer, do my thing, and try to block out the pain. You know, distraction is probably my biggest tool for dealing with sickle cell pain. When it is, you know, to the point where I can take my mind to another place. Some people use meditation, some people use video games, some people use music, some people talk to their friends, some people write, some people paint. There's all sorts of different ways. That being said, when you go in and the nurse asks you on a scale of 1 to 10, I hate this, by the way, because its pain scale is subjective. My 10 could be, you know, my 1 could be your 20,000. So when they ask you that question and you tell them it's an 8 out of 10, and they look at you and like, "Oh, well, if I was an 8 or 10, I'd be crying. This dude can't be serious." It sucks. And I think there are a lot of good nurses and a lot of good doctors out there, but I've run into a lot of really bad ones that I will be more than happy to tell you guys stories about. Um, so, the narcotic issue. Those all have side effects. They make you itch. They can make you really lethargic. You know, for a while I was taking methadone, which tore my stomach up, which made working very difficult, which it was rough, really rough. Holding down a job with sickle cell is really hard. There were times where I would go teach a class and then go to the emergency room after my class, spend the night in the emergency room, only to check myself out to go to work the next day. Uh, or the same day, like hours later. times where I was running late to work because I just got out the emergency room. Um, so, um, sickle cell affects every part of your life. Um, as far as pain management now, uh, Suboxone, again, I'm not a doctor, but Suboxone has been working wonders for me. Suboxone is a drug that is meant to treat folks who have opioid dependency. And that kind of gets into a weird, murky territory with me because for my insurance to approve it, they had to say I had opioid dependency, which I do not have. When I'm not hurting, I can go days without taking any opioids without a problem. But I had to play the game, okay, and I don't like how that looks on my record. I don't like it, but it don't mean nothing. It is what it is. Just had to do it. So, but once I got on Suboxone, I've been on Suboxone a couple times, off and on. There was a time where I had to go off of it because my insurance company would rather pay thousands and thousands of dollars for me to be in the hospital versus, me not being in the hospital and just paying, for Suboxone, which is not cheap. I believe, as of a couple of years ago, 1 month's prescription was like $300 to $400. Um, so now I'm on it, and I've been doing pretty good. I was averaging, before I first got on Suboxone, being in the hospital, at least at the very minimum once a month, and that's inpatient. That does not include ER visits. So, I was on a first name basis with everyone in the ER. Everybody knew me. And most people treated me well. Some not so much, but most people treated me well. So now, this 2020 is a different kind of year. I've avoided the hospital like a plague, literally like the plague, because of COVID. And it's been rough. There's been times where I've been in bed just like, oh my God, someone just popped me because the pain's so bad. Because I don't want to go to the hospital and get possibly exposed to COVID. But let's look at 2019. I think I was in the hospital 4 times that year, which is a dramatic improvement. If someone had told me when I was like 12, I'd go, a year and only be in the hospital 4 times, I would have thought they were lying. So, there's treatments and there's resources out there, and I think that there's a lot of good doctors out there, particularly the one that I used to have, Dr. Campbell, who moved on to work in DC doing research on sickle cell. But there's some good doctors out there, and once you find one, stick with them. And if you have one that doesn't mesh with you, don't be afraid to go look for another one. One of the bigger mistakes that I made is sticking with a doctor who did not vibe, did not mesh with me well, didn't respect me a whole lot. And there's a story there that I definitely will tell in the future. So that was a mistake, sticking with him. I wasted a lot of time and I got treated like garbage for way too long. So, if you have sickle cell out there, my biggest advice to you is to be upfront with the people you know. Be upfront with your friends. Be upfront with your family. If you're hurting and you don't feel good, don't try to force yourself to do something that you can't do. Also, be mindful of your own body. If you're like, oh man, I'm really not feeling like doing this today. I know it sucks to call off. People have alluded that I've been flaky in the past and stuff like that, but it's not up to them to understand. It's up to me to take care of myself. So, you got to put your health first, because tomorrow's not guaranteed to you for anybody. But with sickle cell, and particularly, it can be fatal. There's things like acute chest syndrome that can come out the blue, which is like a really bad super case of pneumonia on steroids, where your red blood cells get stuck in the bottom of your lungs, and the rest of your, the oxygen isn't flowing through your body because they're all stuck here, and it sucks. Um, so, you know, trust your body, trust yourself, and if depression, it's something that we don't really talk about a lot. Like, honestly, I don't have a whole lot of friends with sickle cell, but I kind of know what's going on in the community from looking online. But depression's a real deal. Depression can make your sickle cell a hell of a lot worse. Stress can make your sickle cell a whole lot worse. So, if you feel like you need to talk to someone, talk to someone. I see a therapist on a regular basis, and it's been a game changer for me. I have a lot of supportive friends. Uh, my girlfriend's wonderful and supportive. She's probably the most supportive significant other I've had as far as dealing with this kind of stuff with sickle cell and sickness in general. You know, and it can be tough to have romantic relationships with while you have sickle cell, but it's you gotta live your life, and maybe that's something I'll touch on in the future. So um, anyway, I will leave you guys with that, and I have some footage of my apheresis treatment that I will have available at some point in the future. Um, so I had that treatment maybe about 3 or 4 days ago. Still feeling a little rough, but I'm definitely feeling better than I was before because this last month was a rough one. But anyway, this is Jameson the Silent Echo Lundy signing off.